Hey Zwifters, welcome back to another Zwift Racing League Recon video, and this time we are talking about the first race of the Zwift Racing League finals. So these are going to be a bit more in depth because I really want you guys to be able to do as best as possible in these final 3 races. So I'm going to be giving you all the tips and tricks and suggestions that I do have for these courses. So for the first race, we are going to be racing the City and The Sgurr course in Scotland, and this one's really interesting because it features the all-new loopable hill climb course that was used in the UCI World Championships just a couple weekends back, and it also lasts for 45 minutes. This is the first time that we have not seen a set distance of a course, so that's very interesting to see. And that kind of leads me to my first point of the 2 that I have that you really want to make sure you understand. So the first thing is that it lasts for 45 minutes, so the rider who covers the most distance is going to be the winner. Second, there are not going to be any point segments, so it's all just going to be a regular race that you would normally see on the event calendar. You don't have to worry about getting points at any of the arches, it's all just going to be a regular race. If you are enjoying this video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And with that, let's continue on with the video. Alright, so now details on the course. The course is going to be 3.7 miles long each lap, which is going to be 5.9 kilometers. But note that there is a pretty long lead-in, but it's mostly descent. And that's going to be 1.7 miles or 2.7 kilometers. Then in terms of elevation gain for each lap, you're going to be climbing 338 feet on each lap or 103 meters. In terms of power-ups in play, we've got the featherweight, we've got the aero boost, and we've got the anvil. So these are going to be some very interesting power-ups that can be used very strategically in this race. Duration is 45 minutes, as I stated earlier. Alright, so some of these races are going to be finishing on a descent, so that's where the anvil will be most useful. Any descent is where the anvil should be used. Don't use this on a climb or you are kind of doomed. Although Zwift did change it so you aren't actually doomed, but you kind of just wasted a really good power up. So I'd certainly save this if you think that you do have a chance of finishing on the descent, because that'll be insanely powerful. The same kind of goes for the featherweight boost. If you think that you're going to be finishing on descent, don't save the featherweight boost. Try to get a different power up or just simply trash it or don't use it, because it's not going to help you at all on the descent. This will be helpful for climbs and hilltop finishes. Next, we've got the aero boost, which I'd say will be pretty useful almost everywhere. It'll be helpful on descent and descent finishes, but it'll also be pretty helpful on climbs. Even though it is a climb and gravel, the speeds will be high enough for it to still make a substantial difference. So if you have an aero boost, I'd recommend still saving it unless you think the chances are high of you getting a feather boost. One quick note is that riders will get another power-up at the Glasgow Central Station, which is about 1.4 kilometers into the course, and that'll kind of give you a power-up for that lead-in, so you do have a power-up going into that first climb. Alright, so bike choice on this course is pretty tricky because it does include a significant amount of gravel. So the best bike, the fastest bike in general, is going to be the Specialized Crux with the Roval gravel wheels, and that's going to be the fastest setup, but it really does depend, in my opinion, on what type of rider you are. So for riders who are not as confident on the climbs but are confident on the downhills, these are most likely going to be heavier riders. I'd recommend using that Specialized, but if you are a lighter rider like myself, I would recommend using a more of an all-arounder that can handle all sorts of terrains. So the best would probably be the Venge with these NV 7.8s. But anyway, the Tron is going to be a solid setup, and the difference between the Specialized and the Tron are truly going to be made on the descent and the climbs. So as you could probably imagine, the gravel bike is going to have a huge advantage on the climb but a huge disadvantage on the descent. Also note that the lead-in is mostly pavement, so that's going to make it really tough for those on the gravel bikes, so you got to be expecting to be hammering like a couple watts per kg above the typical pace for your group. Alright, now heading back to the start of the course so we can begin the actual course recon. One quick thing to note, be sure to check out the Zwift Insider Article for more information about this, and that's going to give you a really in-depth look at this, along with Bradeley's Recon video. His are always very good, and they are very to the point with these recons. Alright, so immediately as you roll out of the gates, you're going to hit a descent, and you're already going to see that the riders on gravel bikes are going to start to drift to the back. So if you are someone who is planning to use a gravel bike, be ready to push really hard at this start, especially going through these short rollers at around 0.3 miles in or half a kilometer in. And then after that is a nice descent. Be sure not to ease off too much because you might find yourself off the back of the group. Next, you're going to hit this big kick up, and you'll already have a power up at this point, so it'll be one of the 3 power ups. Some will have a featherweight boost and will choose to use it now, but I personally found that it's best to save the power up towards the end, which is when riders tend to give a little kick and try to cause some extra separation. In this race, I don't think that there is really going to be very big groups. I'd say that there's going to be probably a lead group around 10 riders for the top categories and even less for the lower categories because of how many climbs there are scattered throughout this course. You got to be sure to watch out for the little punches that are involved in each corner of the course. So you're going to see the gradient kick up to around 13% on the forward climb, which is what I'm currently showing everyone. And on the reverse, it's going to be not quite as brutal as it is a shorter climb. After that, you'll hit the UCI banner and you'll get another power up. And for those who get the anvil, I'd recommend using it on this descent because it'll really benefit you and you'll be able to just really coast. So something that I noted in my previous analysis video of this race that I actually did was that you really want to make sure that you stick very close to those riders, and once you get to the top of the climb, you want to make sure that you are locked in, because if you aren't, you're going to find yourself off the back and using unnecessary energy that could be spent on the climb. Heading onto the climb, you are going to want to stick with the group that you are in. Bridging, it is possible on this course because of the climbs and how scattered out everyone is going to be, but I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you are very confident that you can catch a rider ahead of you. And it's going to be pretty hard to know when you really want to put in that surge because it is time based. It's not going to be distance based, as most of us are used to distance based. As you just saw there, the reverse way went up much quicker, and that was only around a minute of climb. So I'd suspect that top category A riders will probably do it in the low 1 minute area, and the D category riders will do it in around 3 or 4 minutes. So again, you can see that I did get dropped here, and I had to put in a pretty big sprint to catch back up, and that's something that you really want to avoid because you're going to be dying going up the climb, and you really want to make sure that you can still perform very well on the climb, and you're going to be climbing a ton. I suspect that the top riders will probably get in around 6 or 7 climbs, and the lower categories will get in probably 4 or 5 at least. So it's going to be a pretty brutal day out there. It's important once again to note that this is time-based, so you really are not going to know where your race is going to end probably until the final 5 minutes or so of your race, because that's when you'll know whether if you're at the top of the climb, it's probably going to end midway through the next climb, or if you're at the bottom of the climb, it'll probably end at the top or on a descent. So it's really going to be iffy, and really don't pay attention to where this race is finishing in this current film, because this is using a standard 1 lap course, which does end where it technically should, because I personally feel that it's really wonky to do that, especially on a hill climb where you should really be taking advantage of the fact that it automatically ends at the top of a hill without you needing to set a custom finish. Alright, so some quick tips for different scenarios for the finishes. If you are finishing on a descent, make sure that you are not too far back, because everyone will already have quite a bit of momentum, so it's not going to be like flat finishes where you kind of want to be towards the back and you want to use a slingshot effect. That's not going to work as well on the descent. For finishes on a climb, I'd recommend really positioning yourself towards the middle and saving that power up, because it's going to make a huge difference on a climb, especially if it is a feather power up. Thank you all for watching, and race hard out there, and best of luck to all the racers. So thank you all for watching, see you all next time, and ride on.